Afternoon, guys. Oh my God, it wasn't finding the group. I nearly wasn't able to stream online. How are we? Let's just see if we are live. Awesome. Fantastic. I think we are ready to rock and roll. It looks like we are live. Let's go. Guys, if you are watching this on replay, please type in replays just so I know who's watching, who stopped by, and whether so I can find out whether this information was useful for you or not. So before we get started, I just want to mention to you that some of you still haven't had, very few of you, but some of you still haven't had a free consultation call. So whenever you come into this group, you still get an opportunity to jump on a free consultation call. Now, at the end of the call, you don't need to go into coaching. Okay, so everyone thinks, oh God, I'm going to get on this call and you're just going to sell me coaching. Well, if I think that you're a perfect fit and you want more information about coaching, then so be it. If anything, you get to walk away from the call with 3 very clear steps on where to go next, depending on what your goals are, what's holding you back. So if anything, you'll really understand exactly what it is that you want, what's stopping you from going there, and 3 clear steps to move on and go ahead. So if that's something that you're interested in jumping on completely commitment free, then drop the word call below and we can set up that call. So before we get into the meat, and or I shouldn't really say that in this group, before we get into the main squeeze of this video training, is please remember, I am a plant-based weight loss coach. I'm not a medical professional, okay? But my clients with medical conditions have continued to lose weight healthily, in a very healthy way. And I'm going to tell you how they have achieved this. I'm going to tell you how you can possibly achieve this. And as normal, you know, I'm not standing here telling you that you're going to be able to completely reverse illness, disease, whatever. But a lot of what I preach is going to put you in a better position, most likely, than where you are. So yes, I'm talking about things like diabetes, pre-diabetes, PCOS, fibromyalgia, menopause, obesity, high cholesterol or blood pressure, cancer, anything which requires you to change your diet or your lifestyle to feel and function better. There is no harm in taking the advice, taking the bullet points, which I'm going to talk to you about today, to your doctor and saying, hey, if I did this, this, and this from this chat that we're going to do today, Jesus Christ, that sun has just come out beaming. If I do this today, if you take notes today and you take this away to your doctors and say, hey, if I started doing this, is this going to help? That would be a great start, because the problem is doctors don't have time to go through everything. They don't have time to break everything down and tell you exactly how to do things. That's where I come in. I just want to pre-frame you that, yes, I do have another part-time job, because sometimes it's easier to pick up a few shifts here and there. But before that part-time job, I went and applied, and out of 60 participants, I came second to be a health coach for the NHS, for doctors. And do you know why they're hiring health coaches? Do you know why they're doing this? It's because doctors do not have the time or the capacity to tell you how to change your habits, to tell you the basics of what you need to do. They can turn around and say you need to limit your carbohydrates, but ultimately they're not nutrition experts. They're going to find it very difficult for you to understand where you are emotionally, to understand why you can't cut out carbohydrates so quickly. So take this information to your doctor, get it cleared, and get started today. 1 second. Yeah, so I forgot my water, so I just messaged my partner to see if he would bring in my my water bottle for me. Bless him. If he doesn't, then I'll just end up having a dry mouth and a headache. So let's talk about losing weight with a medical condition. Now, the problem is when you think that your diagnosis is keeping you from losing weight. This is the problem, okay, when you think that your diagnosis is keeping you from losing weight. Often we'll get really mad, we'll get angry, maybe we'll get resentful. Maybe you'll think, why is this happening to me? This isn't fair. And then ultimately we end up emotionally eating because we've decided it's not our problem. It's nothing that we can change. In fact, there is a lot of things that you can change if you have a medical condition and you continue to lose weight, or if medication is putting weight on. Now, of course, you can speak to your doctor and say, hey, is there something else that I can do because this is making me gain weight? But ultimately, as we'll discuss later, there are a lot of things that you can still do with medical conditions to continue losing weight. Now, it's really normal to feel emotions, to grieve for your health, to be angry at the world. It's really, really normal to feel these kind of emotions and just let them pass, right? The problem is we don't actually always let these emotions pass. What we do is we just get them all and leave them all pent up inside us, and that's unfair on us. But what's not normal is to immediately feel motivated by your diagnosis. Now, often I hear people say, yeah, so I've been told that I've got high blood pressure, I've got diabetes, or I've got obesity. And then all of a sudden, I'm supposed to change everything. Just because you've been told something doesn't mean that motivation is going to come and slap you around the face and say, hey, you know, great, we've got diabetes. Let's go change. And then suddenly your effort, your motivation, your willpower suddenly shifts into gear and starts going like crazy. It doesn't always work like that. You might need to accept the news, understand the news, say, okay, yeah, I accept that I have this condition, this illness, whatever it is, this disease, and grieve what it will no longer give you. Grieve it. Like I said, you need to feel the emotions. I want you to think about people who lose a limb right now. They will mourn their limb. They'll probably miss it, but they'll have to figure out how to live their life without it. Otherwise, they can just sit there and dwell and be pissed off and upset. And then they will live a life that is not as happy as they could be. Now, this is the same with weight and a medical condition. You can sit there and say, my medical condition means that I have to put on weight. Maybe I can't eat this or I can't do that. This is really sad. And you can sit in that negative, shitty emotion. Or you can say, okay, this is what it is. Right. How do I move forward? How can I bring joy to my life in other ways? How can I work around this? Okay, so you can either sit in the shitty emotions that you're in, or you can make it worse by changing your thoughts and changing the trajectory. So let's drop the unrealistic expectations that you'll suddenly be motivated, because the odds are too low to expect this of you. What I mean by this is that the amount of people that actually are shockingly motivated by a diagnosis is too low. So what we're going to do is we're going to start noticing the thoughts that you're having around your diagnosis. Maybe it feels unfair. Maybe you're angry at your past self. Maybe you feel completely hopeless. Let me know in the chats Let me know in the chat, in the comments below. What is it making you feel like? And we're going to acknowledge it and then change the thought. So maybe even the thought of, I have everything that I need to change. I need to change everything. I want you to ask yourself, do you have to change everything at once? Also, you don't have to change. You literally don't. You have the option to change, or you have the option to not change. Nobody's forcing you. Nobody's telling you that you need to do it. Someone's saying you can do this. Now the option is down to you. Do you continue with what you're doing? or do you choose to change? You have the choice. And that's a hard pill to swallow. People think that it's easier to just kind of like outsource the responsibility. Oh, well, the doctor's telling me that I need to do this, so I need to do this. That still doesn't give you any power to do anything. You need to decide whether you want to change. Now, you can control the pace. This is another thing. Many steps that are doable is so much easier. You can control the pace. I guarantee you with the diagnosis, they're not going to tell you that right now, as of this very moment, you need to do everything. The problem is it will sound like that. The doctor will say something that it sounds like that, but this is just not true. This is just not true. And often I hear people saying, oh yeah, but the doctor said that I need to do this, this, and this. And I said, okay. So did they say that you need to do it right then and there in the office? That's it. Never, ever, ever again. Or did they say that theoretically it'll be really good if you do this, this, and this, and that will help improve, or that will make you feel better? The thing is we load too much upon ourselves, and we expect too much of ourselves just because someone has told us something. Again, minimize the expectation that suddenly you're going to be motivated, but also minimize the expectation of what is needed and required at once. I guarantee you just changing a few things at once, just a couple of things, is going to make a massive difference, rather than you changing everything 1 week later, feeling so overwhelmed and so stressed because so much has changed, and then going back on yourself or binging or purging on anything, and then putting yourself in a worse place than where you were beforehand. Another thought is it's unfair. Okay, I get it. It is unfair. It is unfair that you have, or life has put you in this position. But what is really unfair, what's worse, is that you might now eat your emotions. You might not do anything, or you might keep doing the thing that put you in this in the first place and put yourself and your body in a worse place. So yes, it's unfair, but what's unfair is you continuing to put yourself into a bad place, into a bad state. And another thought again is I have everything to do right now. Is this real? Is this story real? Do you actually have to change everything at once? Is this just your opinion? So think of these thoughts that are coming up, right? The noticing the thoughts that you have around your diagnosis, around the change, around the things that are going to change. And ask yourself, is it an opinion or is it fact? How can I minimize the impact while maximizing my results, right? Minimize the impact by doing one thing at once, improving one thing at once, taking it step by step, making small adjustments and tweaks. And then in a week's time, make a bigger adjustment. In a week's time after that, you make an even bigger adjustment. How can I change my thinking to a more positive thinking? It's all the same with weight loss, regardless of whether you have a medical condition or not. It's always thinking about the mental state. Now, you will need to learn how to solve and cope with your problems or emotions without food. Now you don't have the food to do it. Okay, so something that's really, really important is that you'll need to learn that overeating, binge eating, eating your emotions, this is all an emotional crutch. So now you can't have the food to resolve your situation or to make you feel better. The really shitty thing that we have to do now is actually not cut out the food, but address our emotions, address why we're feeling low, address why we're feeling down, address why the food is actually giving you some sort of joy, some sort of pleasure. The food that you used to turn to, why didn't you change that food in the first place? We all know, we're not stupid. Nobody here is stupid. We all know that a whole food diet is super healthy. Even if you do eat meat, right? a whole food diet, not just plant-based, but a whole food diet is going to be one of the healthiest diets for you on the planet. We're not stupid, and we know that processed foods, we know that baked goods and cookies, we know that sodas, all of these, we know they're not good for us. So you need to address why eating these, generally these foods, or an excess of these foods, were actually helping you mentally. And once we address the emotional side of it, then we can start shifting the emotional attachment to those foods, and it's going to make it so much easier to change. Often we have dealt with self-worth, fitting in, soothing and comfort by eating, because food has provided that connection in the past. One thing I hear all the time is, oh my God, this is going to suck. It's going to be so hard. It's going to be horrible. This lifestyle, I don't know if I can do it. Why do we never think the opposite? Why do we always think it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be shit, right? Maybe it's not as, so like, think of them like this, right? You're thinking negatively. What if we just shift your feet and go, maybe it won't be as bad as I think. Maybe it will be temporary. Maybe I'll enjoy feeling better and end up loving this new lifestyle. What if it's easier? We often predict our fears, and because when we do a mental trial run in our head, in terms of when we think about going low carb, and I'm just keep using low carb as an example. I know that there's a lot of conditions out there that cut out a lot of different food groups, food types, but I'm just using this because it's a really easy example to go to. A lot of us will think, oh my God, we have to go to low carb. And by the way, why have I got an itchy nose? If you do have diabetes, going low to no carb is actually really dangerous. So hit me up if you want to know more. It's cutting out carbs completely is one of the worst things that you can do. Anyway, and that's if you're diabetes or pre-diabetes. So if we shift our thinking into more positive light, it's going to give our brain a little bit more sense of security, because what we're saying is it's going to be bad, it's going to be shit, and we're portraying this negative emotion, this negative story about this new lifestyle, and now our brain sees that and believes it. This is how incredible the brain is you've thought up of this feeling that you're going to have, and now your brain thinks that that's true. The thing is if you think something so well and so thoroughly, your brain actually believes that it's already happened. So if you think of a more positive light, a more positive scenario, your brain is going to think that it's happened. Think about how you can change this. Think about how incredible if you can create a scenario and your brain believe it to be true and it be negative, then why not create a positive one? It just makes sense to create a positive one instead. Oh my God, my nose is so itchy today. 1 second, I'm just going to collect my water. Thank you so much. You could have... Oh. I mean, I have a massive, like 2.5 litre jug that was right next to him, and who could have brought me in that, but I'm not. Also, why is it murky? Brighton tap water. Why was I expecting lemon juice or something? That is so shit. Can anyone else see that? I mean, it's just going into glass, so I'm assuming all the bubbles are settling, but that I need to get a water purifier. That is terrible. Anyway, sorry about that little break. So, predict a more positive future. What if you don't know that you're going to hate it, right? Just think, this belief that you're going to hate it is a belief, which doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Is there actually on earth a possibility, just a physical ounce of possibility that it could possibly happen that you actually enjoyed it, right? Is it, I'm literally saying, is there a slight and tiny possibility? You might be like, well, it's not, probably not, but I guess there's a tiny possibility. Okay, stop projecting your negative opinion on something which you do not know is the truth or not. This happens all the time with my weight loss clients, all the time. Happens with me, happens with my partner. We can't keep projecting a negative opinion on something that is so important to us. So start projecting a positive one. You're probably thinking, okay, Bianca, I got your point, move on. If something doesn't work, why not try something else? Now, I say this because people say, oh, I've got this, I've got that, and I've tried this and I've tried that, and nothing works. And I've said this before, but one, stop thinking that your first method is the be all and end all. If something doesn't work, then try something different and try something different, right? If you need to stop at enough and pushing your plate away doesn't work, that means you can't, that doesn't mean that you can't stop at enough. If you don't know what I'm talking about by stopping at enough, maybe if you're new to this group, then just hit me up a DM or a message or a comment below and I'll explain what I'm talking about. But if that method doesn't work to stop at enough, try another method. Try boxing your food up or throwing it in the bin. If that method doesn't work, try guzzling a pint of water. There are so many ways in which you can change your methodology to make it fit you. The first thing that you've tried is not the be all and end all. There are so many ways around it. And why not just keep trying something else? The thing is when people say, oh, nothing's working, I need you to genuinely ask yourself if you're paying it actual consistency, right? When people say nothing's working, it's not working, the problem is they have these little Just Eats. So no, I'm not talking about the food delivery service Just Eat. I'm talking about the Justs. It's just a bite here, it's just a bite there. It shouldn't matter. The justs and shouldn'ts, this is where your weight gain is coming from. You can literally eat the healthiest meal on the planet. You could eat tofu, rice, and broccoli until the cows come home. And you could still be overeating on just a bite of broccoli here and there because you're still overeating for your body's nutritional needs. You're still eating in a calorie surplus, regardless of what it is. It's just easier to not overeat when you're in a whole food plant-based lifestyle. So, you know, if nothing's working, are you absolutely entirely 1000% sticking to a clean whole food plan? Are you absolutely and entirely and 100% getting enough sleep? Are you absolutely entirely and 100% managing your stress, moving your body, drinking enough water for weeks? I mean, for weeks, not days. And then at the weekend, you just here, just there, just a mouthful, just the last bite. You don't leave the last one bite on the plate because it's just the last bite. It shouldn't matter. These little things do matter. And if that last bite is providing you with an emotional release or an emotional crutch, then we need to address the emotional side of overeating. These things can be changed with and without a medical condition. Guys, what I teach my clients, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be transparent and honest with you. It's not groundbreaking. It's just designed to meet her where she is. This means that regardless of your diagnosis, we can work with your health. At the end of the day, the methods that I am teaching here and I teach with my clients can be applied to about 98% of people, right? They are that simple. I kind of skipped my notes. I'm just scrolling down. When you tell yourself that you should do something, I should change this, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, it's really important to change your vocabulary to the fact that you choose to do something. Again, and this just, you know, I've already talked about this, but it's really important to say that you choose to do something instead of you should do something, because should feels very very patronizing to yourself. It feels like someone else is taking charge, like someone else is telling you what you need to be doing. That often has people rebelling and going backwards, going the other way. And that's, of course, not where we want to get to. Change that. Tell yourself you choose to do this. You can show up in a positive way or in a negative way. That is your decision to change, right? You can turn up and choose to eat the same way, to choose to not manage your stress, to choose to not sleep enough, to choose the foods that doesn't work with your new diagnosis. Or you can choose the other. You can choose the positive. That is totally your choice, but don't take the power away from yourself or the responsibility, because it's only going to come back and bite you in the ass. Take responsibility. So the best way to lose weight without a medical condition, and without, is to stick to your 4 pillars of health. Again, I talk about these all the time: stress management, nutrition, sleep, movement, and drink water. If you aren't able to nail these, you are still able to nail a lot of things. Of course, the nutrition might be the hardest thing with your diagnosis. Perhaps sleep might be the hardest thing, especially if you're during menopause. But make sure that you're ticking as many areas of those make sure you're ticking as many of those boxes as possible. Drinking more water is easy, right? Moving your body is easy. Allocating enough sleep is easy. Following a new nutritional plan is easy. Setting up stress management is easy, but adhering to it is going to be the difficult thing. So figure out why you're not adhering to it. Figure out what rebelling against this new plan, this new idea, this new concept is actually doing for you. And it's really important, again, to allow emotions, but set realistic expectations. You can grieve, you can be angry, you can be pissed off at the world. That's totally fine. Allow for time. Take it slow, one thing at a time. But you need to understand that your emotions are completely and utterly valid. But set your expectations realistically. You're not going to suddenly be slapped in the face with all this motivation just because you have this. Just because you have X, Y, or Z. It's gonna take time. Allow for that time. Take it slow. Take it one thing at a time. Address your emotional issues and reasons for eating in the first place. I guarantee you, most of your illnesses and diseases, most of them, or conditions, should I say, just most of your conditions are probably down to emotional eating, overconsumption of the wrong thing. Whether it's social media, whether it's overconsumption of stress, there's always going to be a way that you can fix that. Okay, not necessarily your condition. I'm not saying that you can always reverse every single condition. Things like menopause, you can't, but you can ease the symptoms. If you're still really struggling, I urge you to jump on that call that I mentioned at the start of this video training. 3 clear steps will get you to exactly where you need to be in just 3 clear steps. If coaching's not for you, then it's not for you. That's totally fine. At least you're going to get 3 very clear steps on where to go next. All right, guys, sending much love, and I hope you feel much better knowing that you have full control. Stop putting responsibility in other people's hands. It's time to start taking responsibility. Don't be angry at your past self for getting you to the position that you're at now. You know, if it is an obesity or diabetes diagnosis, the past you didn't know what the you that's here now knows. There's no point being angry. There's no point being pissed off. Yes, you can be. That's totally fine. But don't let that ruin what you do next. Sending much love. I'll see you next week.